Hello, welcome to this Two Rivers Gallery Facebook Live event, an artist's talk with Lenka Novakova. My name is George Harris and I'm curator and artistic director here at Two Rivers Gallery. Thank you for joining us tonight and welcome. Tomorrow we open two new exhibitions, Lenka Novakova's Conversations with Landscapes, 45 Days in Oqaatsut, and Tip of the Iceberg, featuring work by 11 artists from across BC. I invite you all to please come and join us and to enjoy these exhibitions. Tonight we have an artist talk with Lenka Novakova, but before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Lheidli T'enneh. It is my pleasure to welcome Lheidli T'enneh elder Darlene McIntosh to say a few words. Darlene.
Thank you, George. It's my great honor to be able to give a traditional welcome to this art exhibition that is taking place at Two Rivers Gallery. And I definitely want to welcome Lenka Novakova tonight as we review her artistic endeavors focusing on the Inuit community of Greenland and climate change. Climate change is a really big thing, as we can now view and see in Prince George. We have never ever had weather like this, and I've lived here all my life, so it has something to do with climate change for sure. So we're all waiting to listen to this wonderful presentation, but I want you first of all to take a nice deep cleansing breath throughout your whole body. Nice deep cleansing breath. So as you breathe into your body, you come to be focused on what's happening tonight. Be present to this very moment and not in yesterday and not in tomorrow. Just to come and witness what will be taking place tonight. Bringing all of our focus. Together we create a sacred space for the artists to be able to present. So we honor them by being totally present to what will be taking place. So as an elder with Lheidli T'enneh Nation, it is absolutely my honor to be able to give a traditional welcome to our community. We, the Lheidli T'enneh Nation, have been on our traditional lands over 9,000 years as supported by lithic evidence. The changes that have taken place over thousands of years supports the enduring strength, courage, and fortitude of our people. Our governments, the Batlats, brought balance and harmony with our brothers and sisters of other First Nations people. Lheidli T'enneh's clans are Frog, Lasilu, Grouse, Utsut, Beaver, Sa, and Bear Sus. Through this system, we know who our family connections are. Through our oral history, the use of legends told of our travels, our hunting and fishing territories, our trading practices with all peoples. May we remember and hold steadfast in what Creator's blessed us with, and that is our traditional territories. Our ancestors have always welcomed people to our territories. On behalf of Lheidli T'enneh's elders, our youth, community members, and chief and council, it is absolutely my honor to welcome each and every one of you to our traditional territories. So in saying that, if we can just bow our heads, and we will call on Creator and the grandfathers and the grandmothers to come be with us tonight. Surround us with the energy of our ancestors. Let us hear you in the songs of healing and the dance of strength. Let the fires burn, drawing in creativity in all the unique forms that create the energies of healing for the people. Let us wrap the beautiful colors of healing around us, bringing the energies that will refresh our spirits. Creator, thank you for this beautiful day on Mother Earth. Thank you for the gift of community. Thank you for bringing all who are present, ready and willing to work towards building a strong relationship with each other. And most important, willing to make a powerful commitment to self and those around us. May we express healing through art and the openness with all those around us. Mother Earth, as we stand on you softly, connecting to your heartbeat. Thank you for continuing to support us, allowing your essence to vibrate through us, interconnecting with all that lives in and on your body. Creator, Great Spirit, hear our prayers. May all those present journey in healing, light, and unconditional love. May your choices be freeing, and with each step growing in spirit. Know that Creator walks with you, feeling and experiencing life through you. May you walk softly on Mother Earth, leaving no footprints. Creator, hear our prayers. All my relations must see. Thank you. Thank you, George.
Merci Cho, Darlene, thank you very much. Tonight we open 2 new exhibitions, both dealing with climate change. I want to first acknowledge the artists in the Tip of the Iceberg exhibition. Disrupted weather patterns, just as Darlene was describing earlier, and the proliferation of forest fires like those experienced throughout BC and elsewhere recently, like the tip of an iceberg, are only the most visible aspects of climate change, which encompasses problems like oceanic acidity, thawing permafrost, not to mention countless social, political, and economic impacts. Sydney Pickering, Rachel Rosansky, Monique Motu-Firth, Liz Carter, Jordan Schwab, Desiree Patterson, David Ellingson, Bettina Matz-Kuhn, Amy Henny-Brown, Colton Hash, and Whitney Brennan have each created compelling work that explores climate change in a broad variety of media from a wide range of perspectives. I want to thank and congratulate them for their participation in this exhibition. Presently, however, I'm thrilled to be able to introduce you to Lenka Novakova. Lenka is a Montreal-based artist who has spent a considerable part of the last few months in Greenland, particularly the community of Oqaatsut, preparing for this exhibition, documenting the comings and goings and the activities around Oqaatsut. For the last week, she's been here at Two Rivers Gallery, and along with Megan Hunter-Gauthier and Phil Morrison, has been working to prepare her exhibition. This is a brand new exhibition, a brand new body of work that we've slowly seen take form at Two Rivers Gallery, and it's a real privilege to be able to witness that, to see this new work emerging. And I certainly hope that over the next couple of months until April 4th, that you will join us and take advantage of the exhibition. Without further ado, please let me welcome Lenka Novakova. Lenka, over to you.
Good evening. Thank you very much to Darlene and George for such a warm welcome here at Two Rivers Gallery in Prince George. It's been a tremendous pleasure to be able to come here and put together this new exhibition. So thank you very much for having me. And it is a double pleasure also for me tonight to talk about my work. And I will start by talking about Greenland, actually, about my visit and about my work, and then I move on to a bit of an introduction of the kind of work I'm doing and the exhibition. So I will start with showing a few examples. So as George mentioned, I spent several weeks in Greenland, in Western Greenland, in the Disco Bay area. And my visit started in Ilulissat. Ilulissat is a town of about 5,000 inhabitants, 3,500 dogs. And so here you can see an image of Ilulissat. So Ilulissat is really well known for its ice fjord and emergence of icebergs. So this is kind of a very common view that you can see there. The icebergs are in Ilulissat whole year round. And let us see like some. So here you see a good example of the Greenlandic dog. It's very interesting because, for instance, you are not allowed to bring other dogs to Greenland because the Greenlandic dog race, there's an interest in keeping that race pure. So no other dogs are allowed in Greenland. And this is how typically you encounter the Greenlandic dog. They are not pets, they are working dogs. And they spend a lot of time outside, typically tied to a rock. And yeah, they are used for sledding in winter months. Otherwise, you can see them and you can hear them outside. They are very present in a Greenlandic culture. And so this is a view of the ice fjord from Ilulissat. You can actually see these icebergs from a hike that is around Ilulissat, or you can take a boat through them. So it is very memorable experience to be able to go through these huge icebergs. It's a very powerful experience. But of course, we all encounter the disappearance of the icebergs. And here in Canada, you can see icebergs in Newfoundland, certainly in the spring, and those are the same icebergs that come down from this area, actually. So here are the few images of the icebergs. This image is from the village that this body of work that I'm showing here in Two Rivers Gallery is based on, and this village is called Oqaatsut. What you can see on the image is actually a whaling station. So formerly, it's been also referred to as Ruddy Bay, which means this is where the whalers were based. And the red color of the building, it signifies the type of building. So this is these are the typical images from Oqaatsut. It's a very charming village. Again, in Oqaatsut, there's only about 32 houses and a very small amount of inhabitants there. I think it's around 35. So it's very, very small community. And it is a real privilege to become a part of the community. I was there for a number of days and I had an opportunity to mingle with the locals. So here on this image, for instance, you can see people carrying water. So it's something that is quite common in Greenland in small communities. Water, there's no water system, so you have to bring water to your house. So for showering, for cooking. So it was also for me a learning experience, having to bring water into my house for all the needs. And there's a view of the cemetery in Oqaatsut. Here is the view in just the beginning of winter in December. I was there in November, beginning of December. So the earlier images, you could see there was no snow. And then later on, we got some snow, which was very lovely. So these are the kind of a smaller icebergs that you can see in the harbor in Oqaatsut. But icebergs are very much, they have a very strong presence in the community. So what the landscape looks like, which I very much enjoyed every morning, is a little different because the icebergs come and go. And so you get used to kind of the view of the icebergs there. They become part of the landscape. And then, of course, when you take a boat and you go throughout the icebergs, and I took a boat also several times at night, it's really very memorable experience. It's another view of Oqaatsut. The adult dogs in Greenland are always tied. It's actually a government rule, but the puppies, they are running loose, and obviously they are very cute. But it's important to remember that those are working dogs, so they're not pets. This is interesting. So here actually you can see we mentioned climate change previously. So as lovely as this looks, actually the black bags that you can see there, there's no sewage system also in small communities. So this is actually what comes from the toilet. Your toilet, you just, it's a bag that gets disposed like that. So it's something to think about, perhaps. And so that this was just a little overview of a Greenland, of my memories, and the exhibition that you will get a chance to see. It's a reflection of that experience. So I just wanted to put it or talk about that first before I talk a little bit about my work. And so now from Greenland to my work. So typically I work in large installations, and over the years, the kind of a subject of the installation has evolved and changed a little bit, but some of the installations that I put together are quite labor intensive. What you see here is an earlier project I did called River, and River was made of cast glass and fishing line, actually. And so what you can see here are these units that are suspended from the ceiling, and there's a current of river projected through these units, and it creates kind of an optical illusion where every cone, as you see suspended from the ceiling, takes the river current and kind of a forms it into a spiral, and then the audience get a chance to walk in between these units and experience this this work. This is an installation view, and this is just a bit of a detail what it looks like without the video. You can see the glass plates. I have experience in glass casting, so this was cast in my studio. And here, if we get a chance to see just a little video, hopefully it will show. Just a little example of what the video look like. So again, there's a combination of video and materials that I've been fascinated by for a number of years. So I always experiment with different materials and see how they might work with light. And obviously, I'm very inspired by nature. So this is one of the works that was inspired by nature. In this case, by a river. And going further, this is another earlier work, which is called Deep Water. It's a similar installation that deals with water. There are 8 pools situated on the floor, and there was a plumbing system installed in the ceiling, and we had these drips kind of falling down, and the screens that you see on each side were capturing the ripple. And this is another project that was called Deep Waters, and there was a ripple projected through these screens. I don't know if I have a good view. Let's see in this video. I'm not sure if you are able to hear sound also, but in this little project, I recorded a water ripple. It was a video, and the video was projected through these multiple screens. And then the audiences were able to walk in between the screens and experience this ripple. Also, we echoed the sound. So it appeared as if the ripple was layered in the space. And then, of course, when you were standing in front of the screens, it appeared as if the ripple was coming at you, as if a tunnel. So I'm really quite fascinated by what can be accomplished with optical illusion. Okay, so we just go back to PowerPoint, hopefully. This was a large project, and in this project, I wasn't working with materials as such. Okay, I'll just get back to PowerPoint now that we don't have the sound. Okay, so I'll just get to presenters view here. Okay. So this project actually was situated in Quebec on St. Lawrence River, and there was this house that I found out that burned down, and it turned out it was a house that was owned by a sculptor, and simply it burned down. So I noticed when I was working by the river that the way the house burned out and the structure was taken the light in a really interesting way. So what I simply decided was to take the burn structure down, disassemble it, and then take it to a gallery and then assemble it again. So here you can see some images from what was happening there. And here it is in the gallery. We brought it into the gallery, and there every part had a number, and it got assembled again into a very similar situation that I found by the St. Lawrence River. And then I wanted to recreate that kind of a phenomenon of that water and the house but instead of fire, I chose to take video of the river with the sunset. And then again, the way the video was reflecting in the structure, it actually appeared as a fire. I can show you again a little video. So these are some of the larger projects I've done, and they were quite demanding in its nature, in both installation, how it appeared in the gallery, and logistically to make it happen. But each of these projects, they are designed as immersive environments, and they are there for the audiences to experience certain situation. And then I'm very much interested in for the audiences to create their own experience with the artwork. So it is kind of a recreating a certain situation, a certain scenario. So these are some of the images from this installation. But perhaps I could also take you to some of more recent work. I also create a body of work that doesn't deal so much with materials, but it's a work that deals with the human body and architectural structures, and it creates image not by video, but by reproduction using live cameras. And this is one of the projects where I started working with dancers because it is working with the human form. This exhibition was called Deja Vu and was set up in Quebec City in La Chambre Blanche. But it also it went to Brazil and to many different places. And as you can see here, I don't work so much with natural phenomenon, but with human form. And also that led me to collaborating with other artists in this project that is called Oval, and that's one of the two last projects that I will talk about here. It was created in collaboration with Oqaatsut de Oya. And in this project, we suspended glass sheets And these glass sheets had transducers, so they were vibrating the sheets and creating sound. But also we created environment that engaged with the audience in kind of a playful way, so they could see themselves in each glass as if it was a mirror. And also we delayed using Maximus D, which is the application to work with the live image. We kind of recreated a situation that multiplied the images of the audience and also played with the temporality. It delayed the movement. So it's one of the projects that I do in collaboration with the artist. In this case is with a Finnish composer, Oqaatsut. Also showed this project in Finland and in several places in Canada, in Santa Fe in New Mexico. In this case, it's kind of a reflective experience for the viewer. They walk through the space and they can reflect on their own movement and also experience the whole structure as if it was type of a musical instrument, really, because you're experiencing the sound spatially. So these are some of my works. That's always a pleasure to talk about. I think perhaps I have one more project. This is one of the also larger projects that I have done actually during my PhD that I worked on in Montreal, and my PhD was dealing with the question of how space perform. And during that time, I started working with larger teams, and I created this structure that was called Fold, and it was using some of these glass sheets I mentioned, but it was a much larger project where people could walk through and experience their own image being delayed, and there were many other components audibly. And again, I worked with several designers and with Otso again. So you can see we doubled the image. The video of this project is rather large. I can maybe show just little example, but well, maybe. So in this project, people had the opportunity to observe their own image in repetition throughout this folding structure. And also their images were delayed temporarily, so they could see themselves in the past. And they could also create sound by talking into microphones and then hearing their own voices in the structure. So again, it was a large musical instrument, the entire structure. I also work with performers on this project. So we created a performance. We called it kind of an invisible performance. So in this entire installation, there are performers who behave as an audience, but they are in fact introducing some of the visual elements of this project. So the audience is kind of they help them to find the microphones. It's very kind of a theatrical type of performance in this case. But I think this might be enough. And I believe this is where my, I stopped sharing the screen. Yeah. So this is about where my little presentation tonight ends. The exhibition that I'm putting together at Two Rivers is new, so no images so far, but you are very welcome to come here and see the work. It should be ready anytime tomorrow, and I hope that you will enjoy it. And I'm really grateful for all the kind and very warm welcome I received here at Two Rivers and all the help. As you can see, these projects that I put together are large and they always come together in collaboration. So I've been very fortunate to have the support of Two Rivers to bring this new work in. And I think that's about all I had. I'm not sure if we will have any questions.
Thank you, Lenka. We do have some time for some questions, and I'd like to maybe mention to everybody that if you have a question, if you would like to type it into the Facebook Live stream, and then Megan will read the questions out to Lenka, and maybe I can start with one. Lenka, could you please maybe let us know what visitors to the gallery tomorrow might see and experience? Well, not just tomorrow, but during the run of the exhibition. What can people expect to see?
So in the exhibition, there are large structures. There are three large cylinders installed, and those are formed by fishing nets. So the interesting part of this exhibition, so these fishing nets I actually purchased in Ilulissat. It's maybe almost a little similar to the house that I got on the St. Lawrence River. So these fishing nets I got in a fish store, which I visited very often because they had all you might need actually in Greenland. And I bought about 50 kilos of those fishing nets. So again, once I purchased them and decided to use them for to create the core of this exhibition, they were shipped from Greenland to here. And I used them to design these structures. So these structures are designed so people can enter them, as you could see in many of my installation. That is the case. I like for people to walk through these structures, and then I use them as projection screens. So these fishing nets will take moving images that were collected in Greenland, and that are kind of a reflection of the time that I had there. And again, it's very new work, so it's coming together as we speak, if I may say. So yeah, they're very welcome to enter the exhibition and engage in the contemplation of these images, and hopefully have some interesting experience with it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I wonder, are there any questions, Megan?
Yes, we have another question. Anna Maria Laurie asked if the work at Two Rivers Gallery is interactive.
That is a good question. So this work actually is not interactive. Many of my works, as you could see, and I didn't talk about it in particular, are interactive. And there are different interactive components in some of my projects, and they're usually created by live feed cameras. In this case, the work is purely contemplative. So the videos are shaped in these fishing nets, and the audience is welcome to walk through them. But interaction is not part of this work in this case.
We've got one other question.
Mm-hmm.
How important is audio in your work?
Audio. I've collected in Illusa, I've collected many sounds that you can hear, and sound is very important because it's part of the landscape. So where I was, there's always the sound of the dogs, you know, where you can hear the dogs howling, or it's also the quiet. Also, I was in Greenland during the polar night when it's very, very dark. And what happens when you have, and many of you I'm sure experienced that in perhaps other parts of Canada or elsewhere. But for me, it was the first time I experienced polar night. And so the interesting thing is that life goes on, even if it's dark. And then, especially in Oqaatsut, which is a small community, you can see and hear kids playing outside, you know, and they have these little lights. And so in the darkness, you can see these little moving lights, and you hear the voices of children. So I'm finalizing this work now, and then the sound should be part of it. The way I feel about sound, in some projects I collaborated with composers, and it was a real pleasure to enter a collaboration. In other projects, silence was very important because the emphasis was on the image. In other projects, the sound was recorded and maybe manipulated. So sound is important, but it's different in every project. And so some projects I created were silence. In some projects, sound was very important because it was engagement of a composer or sound artist, and yeah, it's different for every project. So every project deserves a different kind of a treatment. Yes.
We have another question about audio, and you kind of touched on it, but maybe you'd like to elaborate a little bit more on how do you create your soundscapes?
How do I create my soundscapes? So in general, so the two projects I talked about briefly, Oval and Fall, the soundscapes, I mean, sound was very, very important there. And the soundscape was created spatially because we use transducers. And transducers are basically, it creates what is called structure-borne sound, where you attach transducer, which is basically a speaker, onto a type of material, and the sound is created by vibrating that material. So in this case, it was like very special case because it was the entire work was designed so we could actually create the sound in such a way. So the whole piece became about that sound, but also it became a landscape that people could navigate through, and then the image entered into the play. So in this case, sound was very, very central and was created. There were no speakers in the space. The whole sound was created by these transducers. In Oval, we had about 10 of these structures. So it was 10 channels, and also created a composition for every sheet of glass. In Fall, there were many more sheets of glass. There were, I think, 28. And some of them had composition that also created, but also we had microphones suspended from the ceiling, and people could talk into the microphones, but it was distributed into these glass panels, so they could experience their own voices again spatially. And so that's how it was created there. In other installation, I simply record sound. In deep waters, there was a simple recording. A lot of my work is actually very, very simple. It appears technology is part of it, but it could be also very low tech. And in that case, because we multiplied the image 8 times, so the sound of like a falling rock into the river, which created the ripple, was repeated, was multiplied 8 times. So it was a very simple recording. in this case, and for this exhibition, I'm using recordings, yeah, of the sound, of different sounds that I collected in Greenland. It's dogs, it's children. There's this very poetic message I actually received from the director of the Arctic Culture Lab that I worked in Greenland. And it's because the Northern Lights were very much part of the landscape there, especially during the polar night. And so there is this metaphor of whistling, trying to whistle at the Northern Lights. So that would be another poetic way of creating sound, but I didn't try to whistle at the Northern Lights. So. Okay, I hope I answered that question partially, yeah, or in some way.
And it looks like we have one last question.
Okay.
Where are you finding your inspiration lately?
Lately, that's that's really interesting question. So for the last 2 years, actually, I've been pursuing my postdoctoral research, and so the title "Conversation with Landscapes" very much comes from my interest in landscape. And I traveled like through Newfoundland and Nova Scotia, mostly coastal areas, and Maine also. My postdoc also took me to Holland. Different places. So I very much focused on observing the landscapes, thinking about it, talking to the community, and trying to understand actually how landscape is affected by what is happening today, how we perceive landscape, how the life of communities is impacted by certain landscape and such. So the inspiration really comes from that. And I have to say, despite the COVID, I've been traveling a lot. Not only I was in Greenland, but also I spent a good part of the time in Europe, in Prague, and in different cities. And it seems that now there's inspiration everywhere, even if you are in Prague and then things are not as before, and you can see the architecture that is somehow awakened. There's a lot of inspiration, and sometimes it seems that there is more inspiration that could be processed. There's only so much time. So I think I find a lot of inspiration in the environment that we are surrounded by. Yeah. Okay, so there's quiet, but I hope that it's somehow answered the question. And obviously in Greenland, there was a lot of inspiration where I left Greenland, but I very much hope to go back, because Greenland is very, very fascinating. And of course, everything changes with the different season, so that's recently, that's probably the biggest inspiration, the life and the life in Greenland. Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Lenka. And Megan, thank you very much for stick handling the questions. I appreciate that a great deal. If there are no other questions, Lenka, I would like to thank you very, very much, not only for your talk this evening, but for coming here and for sharing with us a brand new artwork. It's a thrill to have it. And thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us about you and your work. I appreciate it. Thank you everyone for joining us. The exhibitions are open until April 4th. Please come and see us. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you, George.